Good morning, everyone. Hope I am audible. Thank you for joining in for this webinar on air quality and green built environment. This is the 14th session of GreenPro webinar series. We are conducting it along with IGBC Health and Wellbeing. So we will start in 5 minutes. So please be patient and thank you for joining in again. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to webinar on air quality and green built environment. So, air quality is an important aspect and a very critical element in human health and well-being. So, in this session, we'll be focusing on this specific topic and how it impacts our green built environment. So, we have three presenters with us: Mr. Gaurav Prasad from IGBC, Mr. Anil Chopra from Camfil India, and Mr. Farooq Madan from carrier UTC. So the order of presentations will be from the first presentation will be from IGBC by Mr. Gaurav. They are followed by Mr. Farooq Madan, who will be presenting on outdoor air and its quality, followed by Mr. Anil Chopra, who will be focusing on the indoor air quality, so that we will have an holistic approach and understanding of air quality and its impact on the green built environment. So right now, I would like to invite Mr. Gaurav Pershad to start his presentation.
Thank you very much, Hemant. I hope everyone's staying safe and everyone's home taking care of themselves and their families. So I'd like to thank you all on behalf of CI IGBC for joining in for this particular webinar. And all of you all know, today's topic is quite interesting and also very important. It's about the air quality, whether it's indoor or outdoor. So my name is Gaurav. I'm an architect, basically working with IGBC, and I'm happy to inform you that the green building movement in India is really gaining strong response. And over the years, today we've able to achieve about 7.1 billion square feet of green built space. And as the next chapter to this movement, it is vital for us all to understand the relationship between occupant health and well-being and the built environment. So, all of us generally agree that buildings are designed for people. So it is very important and critical to address people-centric aspects of design to enhance the quality of life and further build on it. So let's begin with a small definition from the World Health Organization of what health is, where it states that health is a complete physical, mental, and social well-being, a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of diseases. And this is a very important statement because very often that we believe that okay, if we don't have a problem or we don't have a particular ailment, then we are pretty healthy and you're fine. But this may not be the case, especially when it comes to physical health. So, as part of this, IGBC has basically addressed this entire people-centered aspect in a holistic way through its rating system called the Health and Wellbeing Rating, where the guidelines and norms are formed for people-centric aspects. And how these work is basically that the five elements of nature are perceived through various organs that we have to make us conscious of our surroundings. So these elements of nature and our organs, we were basically doing a lot of research on them, trying to figure out how we perceive each of these, whether it's air or fire or water, how we perceive them. And what we generally see that all these come into particular functions, such as the body function, which is the physical aspect, the ability to recognize, which is the emotional function, the ability to think, which is the intellectual function, and of course the ability to communicate, which is a social function. Now, when you look into all these four aspects holistically, that's when we can actually achieve something called the health and well-being, which enhances the quality of life for us all. It's a body, mind, and senses approach that we can take. So, amongst all these, the physical well-being aspect is something that you can directly see, directly perceive. And one of the major influences of this is the air quality that we all breathe. But again, why are we talking about this? You know, I mean, as you can see the slide in front of you all, India is home to 14 out of 20 most polluted cities in the world. And, our construction industry is one of the major contributors to this. And as you see, the major part of India, the air quality is always termed as unhealthy or not very good to be in. There are very few places which fall under the moderate category, and there are very few again which are under the good category. So it becomes very critical to understand why this is happening. And air pollution is the second leading cause of death in India, and about 1 million premature deaths happen every year just because of this particular problem of air pollution. So when we understand air quality is a physical, chemical, and biological property of air, within or around the building, and this has a major influence on the comfort parameters of the people. And most people benchmark this in terms of temperature, humidity, and pressure, but there's more to it where we also need to understand the contaminants in the air, the VOC levels, the microbial organisms, etc. So what happens is when we have a poor air quality indoor, especially indoor, it causes us, something called the sick building syndrome, which I'm sure many of you all are aware of, which causes various ailments such as headaches, fatigues. These are some of the symptoms, where you see irritation of nose, itchiness of the skin. And when a person or an occupant moves away from such a space, they, suddenly feel better. So that's an indication that that particular building is an unhealthy building. That particular building, you may not be able to see all this in the air, but it doesn't mean it's not there. And that is one of the major problems with air quality, that it's considered as an intangible benefit, improving air quality, because you cannot see it directly. So when most of us are asked this question, are you health conscious? Our minds goes to, yes, am I exercising or no? Or our mind might go to, are we eating proper food? Do we have good diets? But when we look at food, about only, we generally consume about 1 kg on an average of food per day. And when we look at liquids, we're consuming about 3 liters on an average of liquids per day. But air is something that we are consuming constantly, and about 11,000 liters per day. I mean, on an average, a person cannot stay or live without breathing for more than 40, not breathing for more than 45 to 60 seconds. So that is the importance of air that we're breathing. And when you look at this pyramid, these are all factors that affect our indoor environment quality. Air comes right at the bottom, which forms the entire basis of the pyramid. It is the largest portion that you see, which is a very critical point to address and to take care of. So again, why are we discussing this? Because when we look at indoor air quality, you know, we spend 90% of our lives indoor, and the indoor air is said to be 2 to 5 times more polluted than the outside air. It doesn't dilute as much, and it's very common to have, dust particles, other airborne particles, formaldehydes, VOCs, ozone, carbon dioxide, etc., all within that small space. In fact, you and I are also emitters. We are emitting carbon dioxide. The deodorants that we use emit strong VOCs. So, at every point, the every action that we are taking, including using all these house fresheners, the aerosols, these are all causing a lot of harm to the indoor air quality, and we cannot see this directly. That's the reason why we don't understand the amount of pollution around us. Now, these aspects neglected lead to a lot of issues. And as we were speaking of the sick building syndrome, it's a characteristic of an unhealthy building. For no apparent reason, suddenly you feel unwell, you feel tired. When we go for movie theater, our head starts hurting. It may be because you're watching a screen, a lit screen in darkness, but it also may happen because the air conditioning system might not be adding fresh air to the system. It might be just recirculating this air again and again. So it's very evident that such buildings are really unhealthy. And as we said earlier, buildings are designed for people, and if people are not comfortable and not healthy in a structure, the entire aspect of creating and designing a structure for people, or designing a green building for people, fall short of the intent. So let us quickly look at certain strategies that we can use to enhance this indoor air quality. Of course, starting with diluting the air that we have inside, understanding that fresh air ventilation is very critical, very crucial, because the indoor air, like I said, is 2 to 5 times worse than the outside air. So good indoor environment quality can actually enhance the productivity and talent retention of people by about 5 to 15%. And yes, of course, it is important to understand how you take it, but also important to understand where you place these inlets. Now, you can refer to the Health and Wellbeing Rating or the ISHRAE 62.1 guideline to understand what should be the set points for your HVAC systems in case of a mechanically ventilated building, in terms of CFM per person that is required for spaces. And like I was saying, the location of fresh air intake units also matter. We must ensure that we locate them away from all contaminating sources, such as cooling towers, exhaust fans, or smoking areas. And in case it's a space which has a smoking area, for example, airport, understand how we can make small rooms which are negatively pressurized, and how these exhaust pipes, the outlets are placed away from the building and away from inlets. So another interesting way of approaching this is through demand control ventilation, where the ventilation system, the entire way the mechanical ventilation works, can be based on a system of understanding number of occupants per space, and catering to this demand of fresh air ventilation based on the occupancy. So this has various benefits compared to the conventional system, where it maintains this acceptable IAQ while consuming lesser energy and having more energy efficient spaces, monitors the occupancy, does not run on a worst case scenario, which general regular HVAC does. So it's a great way of using these automation to understand how you can provide the right amount of pressure in the right space without other negative impacts on the green part. Now, like I mentioned, air quality is considered intangible most often, but because we cannot see it. But one of the major important things is to follow the 3M approach, which is monitoring, measuring, and maintaining. And only if you monitor and measure, you will get to know what exactly is the air quality around you, and then you can have your decisions taken on what solutions to provide. But very often, even though many people are doing this, they're doing this only for small certain things such as CO2 or PM particles. But there are a huge list of parameters that we need to consider. Again, these can be seen in the health and well-being rating, where we've given the various parameters and the various thresholds that are acceptable. Class C being the minimal that you need to do to have a good air quality within a space, and Class A being the best air quality that you can get, considering the Indian scenario and the amount of air pollution outside as well. Now, added to this, we also have a section to understand what should be the frequency of monitoring this, and also how reduction of indoor emissions must happen through your formaldehyde and, of course, total microbial count. And I emphasize on total microbial count because our ongoing pandemic is because of this. The bacteria, viruses, everything that we generally think are, not available in a home scenario, could be anywhere. It could be moving through a sneeze, or it could be moving through touch or whatever. So understanding how these high touch surfaces, understanding how your vents, ducts can be cleaned and be made sanitized at every point is important, and how to monitor this also to understand what you're dealing with is important. Now, to see an example, when you see CO2, carbon dioxide monitoring is one of the simplest. We have various instruments available for that. And of course, the standards say that not more than 530 ppm differential as compared to the outside should be maintained. Anything more than that is not very good air quality. But again, segregating this by understanding densely occupied spaces and non-densely occupied spaces. In non-densely occupied spaces, you could have these CO2 sensors in your return air ducts, in office areas where you have pantries or you have movement areas. Whereas for densely occupied spaces where 25 people or more per thousand square feet available, you need to have these sensors between 3 to 6 feet above floor level in working plane, working zone, and also exclusive CO2 sensors for spaces which are collapsible systems, seminar, conference, meeting. Now, this could be the same for the other parameters as well, whether you're comparing your PM particles or when you're measuring ozone or other things, because each of these parameters is unique and has a unique way of dealing with. Of course, the CO2 monitoring that you see here is an example to showcase, to illustrate how it's done. Some ways that people are addressing this is by using electronic air cleansers, by using energy recovery, ventilation with level 3 filtration systems, by of course having these IAQ monitors placed everywhere, which is giving them live day-to-day and hourly data. Having smaller things like plant air purifiers, which are small units running, cleansing the air with activated charcoal, aggregate, etc. And of course, many organizations are also using plants. There are various studies available how many indoor plants can help you purify these contaminants. Some illustrative names for you all to see. But this is an example. This is basically, you see these four images are from one of our health and well-being certified building, that is the Parkour Business Center, which has over 5,000 plants within, which is purifying. Mr. Kamal Mittal, who owns the building, is working very hard to purify the air through these various systems of natural systems of plant air purifying units. Now, moving on, we have a huge issue with various materials that we use indoor, because most materials emit a lot of toxic waste, toxic gases, etc., VOCs, in fact. So when you have indoor materials which are being used for construction, whether it's paints, adhesives, carpets, composite wood, furniture, everything is emitting something. And these must be trapped and understood. The levels of these must be understood at a nascent stage, because if you don't, then over a period of time, it can affect your occupants, and the occupants might have various of these sick building syndromes that we spoke about earlier. So some of us, we might be familiar with them. Like, when you walk into a new constructed space, you get this familiar smell of paint. And some people like it, some people don't, but it's actually quite harmful to us. It has high VOCs. So understanding what should be the level or the limit that we can maintain. It's not possible to have zero VOCs for anything, but at least having low VOC content is very critical. So similarly with additives, we have these illustrated list of limits that are generally accepted based on the applications. Carpets, generally certifications such as GreenPro, Green Label, etc., are working towards reducing and looking into the life cycle analysis of this entire product to ensure that the product is doing well in terms of holistically doing well in terms of everything from low VOC to energy consumption to having products stewardship, etc. So uh, again, wood-based, how to reduce the VOC limits in resins, various illustrated. You can all go through these standards to get the numbers and figures specific to what is being used in your own internal areas, whether it's homes or offices. And understanding how we can also keep these outdoor dust pollutants away, especially PM particles, because PM particles, as they get smaller from PM10 to PM2.5 and PM1 and beyond, they start getting more dangerous for us because they get absorbed directly in our lungs, and then as they get smaller, they can also be absorbed directly into our bloodstream. And this is where the major problem arises, where it can start forming clots, and a lot of deaths that we see in the northern areas, especially Gurgaon, Delhi, are also happening because of not containing PM particles. So we can have air curtains, we can have mattresses placed all over near the entrance and near the exits, having at least 2 meters carpets in length placed here. Germicidal lamps and UV lamps can be placed in your HPC system to kill bacteria. Air filtration media, various filters like MRF filters can be used in your systems. And of course, your indoor pollutants, other indoor pollutants, which are quite harmful, generally rise from all the technologies that we're using, such as printers, chemical storage areas, and they're constantly emitting ozones, VOCs, and having exhaust systems in such space or isolating them, having deck-to-deck partition, self-closing doors becomes very crucial, because these small, design aspects can help us keep away these pollutants. Now, moving on, housekeeping chemicals. This is quite interesting because most often, when we smell odor, or when we have any cleaning chemicals, we want some fragrance to it. And most manufacturers are providing this with fragrances. But what we fail to understand is these applications, they just mask the smell. They just add to the smell by adding a pleasant fragrance to it. They do not eliminate or neutralize the actual odor causing bacteria. So we need to understand how we can approach this by using lesser aerosols and using more neutralizers for these contaminating sources, and also ensuring that they have low VOC levels and they're also more green in terms of their approach. For IAQ, for testing that we are talking about, or measuring and monitoring, we can do it at different stages. One of the stages is during construction, and one stage is after construction. So after construction, of course, is the most important, because that's when occupancy will start. And this is also particular time when everything is fresh, your materials, the paints, the furniture, and it has the maximum emission that is happening. So flushing out this air, testing it by having either additional flushing out through technology, or by just keeping your doors and windows open for a period of 5 to 7 days, so that air can keep moving. It's a good idea. So these protocols and various ways of approaching it is mentioned in other guidelines as well, and we need to equip ourselves with these. Now, during construction, there's a different scenario where there's a lot of dust constantly being produced, lots of bacteria, lots of VOCs. So here we need to have a proper IAQ management plan during construction itself, where scheduling, electrical equipment and systems protection, all this is happening simultaneously along with the work that's happening. So housekeeping protocols, isolation cleaning areas must be made. Various guidelines such as the National Building Code and SPACNA guidelines are available for this, and we can take benefit of this by just ensuring that we form this particular IAQ management plan before we start construction. Now, some ways in which all this is done, your air conditioning ducts being covered, chillers being covered, because if they are not, you will have all these contaminants into them. And we've had various scenarios where we've worked with many projects where at the end, when we start having the projects complaining of some foul odor, etc., most often the source is found within these systems which have not been properly covered or not been catered to properly during construction, and some insects get in or rodents get in or dust, etc., get in, and we need to control this. So, uh, of course, like I was saying, olfactory comfort is very, very important, and just controlling the odor, masking it, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We also need to make sure that we neutralize and make sure that these contaminating sources are isolated in whatever way we can, have exhaust systems for them, have various protocols for them. So, saying that, I think I'll stop here because I'm running out of time. But just to sum up, the key issues in the Indian context are deteriorating air qualities in cities. We're seeing that on a day-to-day basis. In fact, today when I was just checking one of these apps called Suffer, it was giving me the air quality and telling me that our capital, which was going through a bad time in terms of air pollution, which was seeing unacceptable levels of air pollution, levels of air pollution has now, that's something that could has come out of this lockdown, of course. But at the same time, world over, we see activities in the slowdown in our day-to-day construction and life that we're having. Now, sharp rise in disease is something we need to address, something we need to look into, because these could be chronic problems as well. Non-communicable diseases such as having backaches due to bad ergonomics, or having eye pains due to bad illumination. These are all something that people ignore very often, thinking that they are not part of diseases because they're not affecting them. But physically, this is having a lot of impact on our body. So there is a huge lack of awareness on this entire aspect of health and well-being, and of course IAQ. So we need to get more aware. We need to see that health and well-being is not just an intangible benefit, but we need to convert this into a tangible benefit as well. Concentrate on the occupants and not just on the other aspects of understanding green building concepts, because green emphasizes on indoor air quality constantly. And it's not just about energy efficiency or water efficiency or material efficiency. It's also about the indoor environment quality and enhancing it. So this is a great opportunity to address wellness and health. So let's start with the basics, that is at least the 3M approach of measurement, monitoring, and maintaining, and we can get further once we're done with that. So with that, I'd like to end the presentation. Thank you very much. I think we can take questions later.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Gaurav, for introducing us to the importance of air quality in terms of human health and well-being. So next, I would like to invite Mr. Farooq Madan.
Good morning, everybody. I am Farooq Madan. I am the Director, Marketing and Strategy for Carrier in the South Asia Pacific region. Today, I'm going to talk about a CSR program that we have taken up a year back, which is called United for Air. And this is to see how we can bring communities together to take micro steps to reduce air pollution in Gurgaon. So just to start with the context also, as the previous speaker mentioned, the 14 out of 18 most polluted cities in the world are in India. India is a fast growing economy, but it is also the fourth largest greenhouse gas emitter, contributing to 5.8% of global emissions. Now, under the Sustainability Development Goals of United Nations, there are about 17 goals, and this particular project is trying to address the three of them which are listed here: affordable and clean energy, sustainable cities and communities, and climate action on what we'll do in this project. So before we started this project, we did a quick survey with residents in the Delhi NCR region. This survey actually covered about 200 residents. So the key findings are listed here. So more than 60% of the residents in Delhi NCR thought that it will be better that they would relocate to a new city because simply they could not bear the air pollution in Delhi. More than half of the people wanted to go for a vacation during, specifically during the Diwali and the winter season when the pollution is very high. More than half of them said that they are suffering from some illness due to rising pollution level, either cough or even asthma. About 1/3 of them perceive that their life is being shortened by at least 3 years because of air pollution, and more than 3/4 agreed to take action against pollution. So the first 4 5 are more their perception and what they want to do, but the last one was extremely important for us because during air pollution it is easy for us to blame the government that the government is not doing enough, but as a community and as a resident or as a citizen, what are we doing about it? So the good thing about these people that we surveyed, most of them agreed that they are ready to take some actions if it helps the city in reducing air pollution, which is the purpose of this project. So I'm introducing the project, which is United for Air. This is the logo unit that we have made for this program. So it's basically a CSR project that we want to do in Gurgaon. Gurgaon is our home city. We have our factory here. And we want to bring the communities in Gurgaon first to make them aware about what is air quality and why does it matter to them, engage with them, monitor air quality in Gurgaon, and take required preventive actions in order to curb air pollution. So we've made a small video on the launch of this campaign, which we've already done. So I'll like to share that video on my screen. Just hold on.
Sunny, no, don't open the window. But why, Ma? No, no going outside. Play with your video games. Ma, I will get zero in my maths test. Don't try to act smart, Sunny. School जाने के बहाने मुझ पर नहीं चलेंगे. But I want to meet my friends. Oof, play with your toys. No. Do you see me being this kind of a mom? Yeah, me neither. So we will have to do something about this air around us. So that Sunny gets the childhood he deserves.
Okay. So as we progressed on this program, we also had GMDA, which is a newly formed authority in Gurgaon called Gurgaon Municipal Development Authority. They came out with a program of installing low-cost air quality monitors across Gurgaon. And happy to share that we have signed up a memorandum of understanding to put 5 low-cost air monitors in a particular area in Gurgaon, which is called those of you know Gurgaon is called the Golf Course Road. So we are trying to put 5 air quality monitors. 2 of them are already installed. I'll talk about that. And 3 more we are going to install. And the idea is also further as we go along to even scale up more and more air monitors across Gurgaon. There are other people who have also joined there, and we are collaborating with them. These are mainly companies who manufacture low-cost air quality monitors. But ours is a larger program, not only to install the air quality monitors, but take it further. So the framework of the campaign for all of you to understand is basically in 3 phases. The first phase is on awareness. And what are we going to do on awareness is, as I said, we're going to install 5 pollution monitors. We are also going to have display panels. These are LED display panels, which will be put on the main golf course road. 3 of them are already installed, and 4 of them more are going to come up. We've already come out with our mobile app, and I'm going to talk about it. and also a website dedicated for United for Air. Now, once we create the awareness and start monitoring the air quality, although this piece itself is very challenging, I'll talk more about it. The second phase, which we'll get into, is more of engagement. So we will engage with the communities in Gurgaon through social media. We have a team in place through our NGO, United Way Delhi, who have put in a team together, and they will start reaching out to communities to start engaging with them. And then the third part, which is the most important, is on-ground action. So what are the micro steps that each community can take, which will help, even if it is small, in reducing air pollution in Gurgaon, which will have many micro initiatives, and we are coming out with list of those micro initiatives. In fact, we'll collaborate with IGBC also to see if we can generate more ideas there. Basically, the idea is to how to reduce carbon footprint and reduce air pollution. We are also going to form an advisory board on this to get the experts, people from the government bodies, doctors even, or anybody who's specialist on air quality, to get them to think and kind of guide on what the communities or people of Gurgaon can do to reduce air pollution. So this is a very challenging project for us. It's not like a typical CSR project which a NGO can run independently. And we ourselves, in sitting in phase 1 today, had numerous amount of challenges. The first challenge was, how do we get to a right air quality monitor? So we had number of air quality monitor suppliers. These are all low cost. We could not afford the most expensive air quality is the BAM, which is installed by the government, but that cost crores of rupees. We wanted air quality monitors which are like 50 to 70,000 each. So we came across a lot of vendors, and few of them we kind of boiled down to. But then the question was, are there air quality monitors good enough, and will they give readings close to what we get from the BAM, which is set up by the government? So what we did is we selected about 5 vendors, and we had their air monitors installed at a BAM in Manesar, which is just next to Gurgaon. That was a new BAM, and started to see the readings of what the BAM was giving versus what the low-cost air monitor was giving, both on PM 2.5 and PM 10. We are only measuring here PM 2.5 and PM 10. And then we started to see the variances of what that monitor was showing versus the BAM. So as you see in the graph, you can see the 2 lines. One is for the BAM and one is for the different vendor who provides the low-cost monitor. And the differences were there initially. So we measured the reading for a week or 2. Then we asked the air quality monitor to do calibration. Then we again measured. So we went to various iterations before we could come out with this. So on the left, you see Airveda, which is our selected partner. And they were able to get the PM 2.5 readings as close as within 20% range for most of the times. Hence, we selected this vendor after a lot of iterations. So this has been a continuous challenge, even for GMDA, on how to select a right air quality monitor. These are very, very sensitive devices. There have been a lot of learnings for us. Even change in humidity matters a lot, which will change the readings. So there are various technologies being worked out. And the key here is not just the hardware of the air monitor, but the calibration that is involved actually distinguishes from one supplier to the other. So our phase 1 is started, as I said. On the left, you see an actual picture of a display board, which is put on the golf course road. You see the golf course road at the bottom, and locations where we put the air monitors and the display boards. On the center, you can see our app, which is already available on the App Store and Google Play. So if you stay in Gurgaon, you can download this app and you can see actually the air quality near to where you stay. Right now, we have just 2 air monitors, which is put in zone 1 and zone 2, which is across the golf course road, and then we'll put more. So you can select where you stay and it will show air quality around where you stay or work. And then, of course, we have our website, unitedforair.in, which shows the PM readings as well as whatever activities that we are doing through this program is all updated on this website. So in terms of community involvement, we want to involve all different kinds of communities in Gurgaon, be it schools, colleges, resident welfare associations. There are a lot of corporates in this area. We want to involve them, and of course, all of this is with the support of the government that we want. So it's a very holistic involvement of the community that we want to target in order to run this program. Now, basically, we're trying to draw, how can we approach this? And we structured a simple process of engagement with communities. So, people's awareness on air pollution is getting better, but it is still far from what people should realize. So, I would say China is much higher awareness than in India. There, people do understand the nitty-gritties of air pollution. Here in India, there's much lack of awareness. So, we want to start with what is air pollution, raise the awareness on this. How do we measure it through PM 2.5 and PM 10? What are these? What is the size of PM 2.5 and PM 10 that we are talking about? And what are the sources of pollution? Because people need to understand where does this come from. And some areas, of course, they cannot make a difference, but there are many areas where communities themselves can make a difference right at the source. And of course, people need to understand how air pollution affects their health. How does it affect their lungs and other parts of the body? So then what can you do about it? The key question, right? So how can we have micro initiatives taken by communities to drive this? So we will, when we start the program, we start with very basic things: waste segregation, cleaning drives, dry leaf composting, junking polluting vehicles, or even reducing the usage of gensets. There are a lot of condominiums in Gurgaon. Even if they reduce or take out gensets, that will be a huge reduction on air pollution. Eco talks on green buildings and renewable energy, which we can work with IGBC on. And we will also try to create some competition between the RWAs or schools to come up with innovative ideas on how to curb air pollution. So this is just a small list. We want to expand this list through communities, expert panels, and other people who can help us make such micro initiatives. So we've been already starting some activities in schools with Nukkad Natak, spot painting workshops. We've also engaged with certain RWS to start some massive tree plantation. The picture that you see is for Sector 30. And we've also done some engagement activities in malls. And I would like to just end this by showing a short video of one activity that we did in Ambience Mall. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you all. Over to the convener, please.
Thank you, Mr. Farooq, for the wonderful presentation and introducing us to your initiative at in the Gurugram area. Hope we are able to scale this up to a much larger extent to all the affected areas across the country. So now I would like to invite Mr. Anil Chopra from Camfil, India. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Am I
Anil, please
audible?
go ahead. Patient.
So, good morning, everyone. And I must say that the morning, which right now is going on, I would like to see this, for many coming years. It was very well, I liked Mr. Gaurav's presentation and Mr. Faruk's presentation, and definitely would like to be part of it in Gurgaon. As we are based at Gurgaon. So, I will be taking you through the air filters and airborne infection isolation rooms. And my name is Anil Chopra. I'm wearing quality section, and it has been 14 years of experience into hardcore manufacturing. And it's the first time I'm working from home, so it's away from shop floor, but it's a unique experience for me. Now the topics which I will be covering would be the vision, business areas, presence, air filter test standard, indoor air quality affecting health, airborne infection isolation rooms. These will be the areas that I will be covering. Now if I talk about Camfil, we are into the business for more than 56 plus years of experience in it, with more than 4,800 employees, 30 manufacturing sites around the globe, 6 R&D centers, and 30 countries with sales offices based at Stockholm, Sweden. And Camfil always promote the right standards. So we are also present at ISO, our representative. Now, if I talk about Camfil India presence, we are here in India for more than 39 years. We have 2 manufacturing units, one at Gurgaon and one at Trichy. The map can be easily visible, our presence of representative and manufacturing plants, and head office at Gurgaon. Now coming to the vision, it was, since the inception of Camfil, it was like making clean air a human right, just like clean water. And if I talk about the mission, it's protecting people, process, and the environment by defining, developing, and delivering filter solutions that combine clean air with energy efficiency in a sustainable and profitable way. So it's a full coverage of people, process, and the environment, because we cannot, like it was said by Mr. Gaurav that the buildings are made for people, but people they will do some process, and we cannot keep environment into isolation. Now the business areas which I would like to talk is basically we are into HVAC, air handling units, filter supply, then into air pollution control, which is basically used for industrial dust, fumes, and mist collection. Then power systems, air filter solution, where the static and the pulse filters are there, and the MCC, that is the molecular contamination control. Those are the filters which basically absorbs the harmful gases and odors, keeping the environment safe. Now, when we talk about air filters, so we need to be make sure that we have certain laboratories which are fully certified, can test, can innovate the filters. So we do have tech centers for gas turbines, molecules, for indoor qualities, HEPA laboratories, and scanning electron microscope. Here, basically, a filter, when I talk about scanning electron microscope, it's a study where we can have a test on the filter, where we can have an analysis that the dust which is captured by the filter, how much is the percentage of the dust in the filter. Now, it was well covered by Mr. Gaurav. Again, it's always a unique experience by, when I state this, because before joining to Camfil, I was also not aware of these things, that we eat 1 kg of food, 2 kg of human, we drink, and 15 kg of air, which is, very much neglected by us. No doubt, indoor environment has 50 times more polluted than outdoor air, and 90% of our time we spend indoors. Now, as per, in this slide, I would like to just highlight a figure that is a 25 million particles which we breathe with every breath. That is a huge. Great AHUs are no good unless they use a great filter. This is the picture which is without filter. Now coming on to the standard, I have covered only the standard which is ISO 16890. Why do we have standard? Basically, to compare the products with their properties so that we can have equal measurement. and we can measure the performance behavior. So the standard which I am going to talk is the ISO 16890. This is the air filter air filter for general ventilation. I am not covering the filter standard which are ISO 29461, that is for static filters, ISO 29463, that is for HEPA filters. The focus is on ISO 16890 because this was a standard which came after EN European standard, ASHRAE standard to to harmonize all the standard. And these are the filters which cover the pre and fine categories, and those are the the foundation of the AHUs. Now, if I talk about the standard, the air, there has been always, if I talk about the thing, it's a known fact, that there are three main parameters to be controlled in any HVAC system. And these are the basic, the temperature, humidity, and the airborne contaminant. And the more important, the temperature and humidity has been acknowledged. It's always taken care of. But the least neglected thing is the airborne contaminants, which has not got that much importance so far. So I think the standard is well in place. When when any standard comes to ISO, it has to be, it has been formed with 100% voting, so that has to be adopted. So there has been a resistance in the air filter industry. Now, as I spoke, there were standards like ASHRAE, European standard, and this standard came into the adoption in 2016 to keeping all the harmonization for the standard. And this standard was voted for 100% approval. Now, basic summary, if I talk about, it has three, we normally talk, I don't think that there will be any person that those who haven't heard these EPM 1, EPM 2.5 and EPM 10. So it has three different particle range. In this, the filter has to be measured before and after for IPA, vapor conditioning, discharging. We have four different classes which will come, that is EPM 1, 2.5, 10 and coarse. So to qualify the filter, the both after charging and discharging, the filter efficiency should come more than 50%. Because I would like to explain this with an example. If suppose you have a fine filter which is without electrostatic discharge, so the filter has been recorded for 4 readings. So EPM 1 reading is 65%. It is the initial recording. So 74 for 2.5, EPM 10 for 93, and the rest is 99%. Now, if I discharge this filter, the efficiency would come, EPM 1 would be 64%, EPM 2.5, the efficiency will come 74%, and EPM 10%, that will come 93. So the average comes to 64, 74, and 93. So the classification would be like, the filter would be classified as EPM 60%. It can also be classified as EPM 2.5 70%, EPM 10 90%. So this would be the classification for this filter. Now, if I take a filter which is a coarse fiber filter, and it's with electrostatic charge. Now, these are the initial efficiencies, which are 69, 89, 88, and 91%. And now, if I discharge this filter, this discharge efficiency comes to 39% at EPM 1 stage, 52% at 2.5, and EPM 10 at 89%. Now, the average comes to 54, 70, and 90. So if you remember, I have just told you that the both initial and the discharge efficiency should be more than 50%. Then only we can take the average. So the average comes, EPM 50%. So this will not be considered because the discharge efficiency is less than 50%. So this filter cannot be characterized in the name of EPM 1. So this filter will be EPM 2.5 70%, and also it can be named as EPM 10 90%. I think this would be the easiest way of understanding the standard. Now, we are working from home and stuck with all those coronavirus everywhere. So I would like to take your attention towards the combating the virus in the air, which is a huge challenge for us, and we have a response for it. Now, these are the some benefits which the government has also published, and everyone, we are following it. So just cleaning our hands, covering our nose and mouth. So these all guidelines have been released by the government also. Now, coming on to the negative pressurization, which is the most I have taken this as a main chapter in this presentation. So this is basically now the patients which are affecting from the coronavirus, they have to be kept in the isolation rooms. So I have created one thing that how to create an isolation room. Basically, the need is to the person who is in the isolation room, the air should not come outside from the room. So we create a negative pressurized room. That is basically, there will be a suction that will spread the air outside. So we need to have a system where it takes the air or the contaminated air in it, and fresh air can be released from the output. So this system basically, it can be placed inside a room where the fresh air can come, and then again it goes to the room. So this likewise, this is the way we control the contaminated air so that it doesn't affect the person who are working around, and the staff which is basically taking care of the patient. So it basically prevents contaminated air to transfer to other areas. The camp cleaner must be installed inside a room or a covered area that must be outside isolation room. Then effect definitely, which I said, trap contaminated air from isolation air. It's also the basic thing. It stops the prevention of the spread. Now, positive effect is protect sensitive people. It also protect the people from the airborne infections and prevent contamination. So these are basically examples where we can install, these systems so that it doesn't affect the person who are working in those areas, keeping the patient's safety. Now, it is a case study which is for the hospital in which that this camp cleaner was placed. I would like to have your attention on on this table where before putting this system, you can see that 80 particles of 0.3, 80 particles of 0.5 and 1 micron. So this reading after 10 minutes of the camp cleaner, this has reduced drastically. So the further the recirculation of the air will reduce this further. So this is the thing where the patient is also safe and the person who are working in those areas are also safe. Now I would like to as as a air filter and filtration industry, we do have some some FAQs where important information which we would like to share around to all of you for the coronavirus, which uh, there will be some question related to HVAC systems, that how this is going to affect the system. So the first question which which will definitely come to mind is coronavirus primarily spread by air? So definitely the answer would be no, because the long distance spread does not appear to be main cause of the spread of the air, because the droplet spread from infected person in the form of coughing, sneezing and fluids on the open surface, so it cannot be transferred via air. The second question which will definitely come is, can respiratory virus spread by air? Yes, the answer would be, studies have shown that the person infected by respiratory viral infection such as influenza can create droplet containing the virus by sneezing and coughing. These droplets can be both visible and invisible to the human eye. The droplets are invisible, can range from 0.5 to 15 micrometers. Moving forward, the next thing can be, can I do something fast to mitigate airborne spread in my building? So it would be like, yes, definitely it can be done. It would be like, recycling the air in your building to save energy, because, normally HVAC system, the indoor air is only recirculated. So the outside air has to be used in this case. So, which will come inside and which will, dilute the inside air basically. So this can be done to mitigate this issue. Then, are air filters effective in capturing airborne viruses? The answer would be definitely yes. The effectiveness depends on the efficiency, no doubt. The effectiveness depends on the efficiency of the air filter. So as per the efficiency, if it's a filter which can capture 1.1 micron, definitely it will capture the filter of the airborne particles. Then, are EPM 2.5 and EPM 10 filters good enough to prevent viruses such as COVID-19? So the answer would be definitely no. This cannot prevent the viruses of COVID. To prevent spread of airborne viruses such as COVID-19, Camfil highly recommends EPM 1 filter, because these range from 0.3 to 1 micron or higher category. These filters will warrant 50% reduction of the virus over the filter in the most cases due to size of the droplet reduction will be significantly higher. Now the next which question which will come is it good idea to upgrade filters in virus outbreak? Because it's a some people may think that it's a panicking condition, we need to change the filters. So the answer would be depend. It will depend, because we will like you to upgrade as per your maintenance cycle. So there is no need of panicking the situation that we need to upgrade the system, or we need to consider some important, such as well as the air handling unit handle higher resistance over the filters. Because in this situation, making the filters, we need to make sure the seals and gasket are tightly screwed up, so that there is no leakage in the system. Can virus captured in air filter get loose? So this is a question. Once the filter captures the virus, can it get loose, or can it fall, or can it can be spreaded? So the answer would be definitely no. The virus captured in the air filter is strongly bound to the fibers of the filter media, because the suction is there, so it goes into the filter media, and once it is captured, it cannot come out. Okay, and it eventually dries out and dies, because this virus also stays for at least 8 to 9 hours, so it gets eliminated from this. So do I need to change out my filters after a virus outbreak? The answer would be definitely no. As I said, it would be like we need to follow the regular maintenance protocol, and filter needs to be changed regularly, because the life of the filter is not it's not a virus spread or any disease. It's basically the pressure drop, which we need to check. If the pressure drop is high, definitely it needs to be changed. Then the question would be, is there something else I can do to further improve the air quality? Definitely, yes, we can use, HVAC system is there, which is making your, the air clean. We can have standalone units as GAM cleaners, which will definitely improve the circulation of the air and will provide a better air. Because this systems will have, a composition of pre-filters, HEPA filters, and the MCC, which will capture the odor from the environment and the viruses. Now, how should we use filter be treated? It's a very a question which many person ask. So no doubt, when we know the filter is basically captures the dust, so it has to be handled with precaution. And no doubt, the using basic PPEs which need to be followed, and this filter can be that can be taken out from the system, and it can be placed into a plastic bag, and that can be wrapped and can be put on the carton boxes. So, now, the second last question would be, it is a good idea to change filter during COVID-19 outbreak? Definitely, as I earlier said, it will be it depends on your maintenance schedule. There is no need to panic. They to change the to system. If the system has come to its pressure drop, definitely go for the change, which will definitely change, definitely upgrade the system. Because if you don't change, like if you feel like the system, the coronavirus is there and we don't change, definitely if the pressure drop is high, the energy cost will go up. Okay, and there are some other hygienic aspects which some smells can come, mold growth can be there. So you follow your maintenance schedule. So the last and the least question which we have found as a Camfil is, does a dual stage air filtration provide more protection than single stage? Definitely, providing if you put 2 filters, 3 filters, 4 filters, definitely it is going to clean the air more. Okay, so it doesn't say that a dual stage protection will be high. Definitely no. The production level of the filtration system is determined by its overall efficiency of the filter. Because if you place a pre-filter, fine filter, and then a HEPA filter, the overall efficiency would matter definitely. A single stage product can provide higher stage. If you put a higher efficiency filter in the first stage, definitely it will capture those things, but the filter life would be less, because it is capturing the least amount of the lowest amount of particles in it. So it will be, the life of the filter will it would be less. So I think from this I will end my slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anil, for expanding upon the control of indoor air quality, and also the question and answers that you have provided regarding the COVID outbreak. So now we would be having our question and answer session. So there are few questions and other questions also, they may be answered or they may be asked as we go along with the Q&A session.
Okay.
Hello, Gaurav. Gaurav, could you unmute yourself? Hello, Gaurav. So there's a question from Mr. Niranjan Kolekar. So what are class A, B, C? Is the question. So
Hello, can
Gaurav,
everyone hear me?
yeah,
Yes,
I'm
yes, we
able
can
to
hear
hear
you.
you.
Yes. Yeah, I'll like to take that question, Mr. Anil, because I think it is directed towards the class A, B, and C that is being portrayed through the parameters of health and well-being. So just to answer you all, we understand that the air quality in every city is different, and based on climatic zones and location, you will have different types of pollutants in your own environments. So because of that, what we have done is when we have all these parameters of air quality that you need to measure, maintain, and monitor, we also give different threshold values which are applicable to different cities or different climatic zones. So when you see class A, B, and C, class C is the basic minimum that you need to do to ensure that your building can be termed as a healthy building in terms of air quality. And class A is the best air quality that you can maintain despite of whatever is happening outside within your indoor environments to give the best air quality to your indoor occupants. So that is the difference between class A, B, and C, and that is the reason why they have been, maintained in those three different threshold values.
So there is the second question from Mr. Rajendra Ajay. The question is, mostly in India, people are economically middle class. Can we provide neutralized IAQ levels for that low economic houses? So can either of you take the question, Mr. Anil or Mr. Gaurav?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to answer that as well. So there are two systems, two ways in which we can address indoor air qualities. One is, of course, in a mechanically ventilated system where you have your HVAC units, you have your filters, germicidal lamps, etc. In a conventional, as you're mentioning, I don't know what you exactly meant by middle class families, but then in a conventional home scenario, let's take, where it is mostly naturally ventilated. What we're trying to recommend is that based on your floor area ratio and your window to wall ratio, provide openings, enough number of openings so that you can dilute the amount of air internally and have fresh air coming from this. So just to take a small example, very often when people turn on ACs at night before sleeping, there is a common habit of closing all the windows and shutting the door, etc., so that the coolness remains within the room. But the harm that we do by doing this is that we're increasing the amount of pollutants internally, because your split ACs, they only recirculate the air. Split ACs don't add any fresh air to dilute it. And not all split ACs come with very good filters as well. And filters can only trap mostly dust particles, and in some cases some bacteria, but most often the other elements are recirculated constantly. So diluting the air or having standalone systems at home which are cost efficient and not very expensive can work. All these air filters that we are looking at in the advertisements nowadays, or for that matter, even using your housekeeping chemicals which are low VOC chemicals, or having your mats laid out near your entrances. These are small ways of inexpensively addressing air pollution in some way.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. There's a question from Afsha Kaus. So what they're asking is, there has been a lot of emphasis on PM25. So what he wants to know is, what are PM and NPM? What's the difference between them?
Mr. Anil Chopra, you can jump right at it.
Hello.
Yeah, can you repeat this question?
So what
Yeah, can
they
you
want
repeat
to
it?
know is, what is the difference between PM and NPM? Okay, so I think we have to take this question later on separately. We will answer it later. And going on to the next question, there's a question from Mr. Harinath Prajapati. So what he asks is, what is discharge state in filters for calculating efficiency? I think this is directed
Yes.
to Mr. Anil.
Yeah, see, because this will be like, we cannot by seeing the filter we cannot tell what is the efficiency, because every filter while manufacturing it is basically charged. So we need to, as per the standard, we need to discharge it first. While we discharge it, we get an efficiency for it. So if the efficiency is more than 50%, then we go for the further test, and then we get the actual efficiency of the filter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anil. There's a question from LJT Designers. What they ask is, how does AC provide guarantee from bacteria and viruses?
AC.
So does air conditioner counteract bacteria and virus? So anybody would like to take the question, Mr. Anil or Gaurav?
I think we can answer it later on.
Sorry?
Can you repeat the question?
So exactly the question is, does AC provide guarantee from bacteria and viruses? I think it's the filtration part, I
It
believe.
would be like, it doesn't guarantee, as Gaurav said, that it is basically recirculating the indoor air. So it is not basically guaranteeing the virus. It is basically enhancing the virus spread. So if the doors and windows, if we don't open it partially, so it will definitely be a risk, higher risk.
Okay. There's a question from Mr. Ramakrishna Silla. So what he asks is, air purification through the roots will make more efficient work than through the leaves. Is it true, or which one will make efficient work in air purification?
See, natural, I would suggest, because it's a tricky question. because naturally, you need to have, larger, the thing which was shown by Gaurav. It would be quite difficult, keeping all the plants in the campus and keeping a standalone alone unit, which will be circulating the air, would be the more convenient way, which can be, you can measure the, the PM levels also. So it was be, one single unit which can be placed at which can also be moved to different places. So that would be the, I think, the right choice.
Would you like to add something, Gaurav, in this?
Yes, I would. See, natural means of purification cannot generally match up to the efficiency of the mechanical means. But when you look at a plant, the plant has proven to purify air, but the quantity of air being plant may not be anything compared to a mechanical system. So to aid the purification and absorption of formaldehyde, etc., the aggregate comes into play where activated charcoal is mixed. There are certain aggregates that are mixed in it where the air is passed through this and only then thrown out. Yes, when you compare leaf and root, even roots give out oxygen, and even roots are able to add to the freshness of the air. But you must remember that when photosynthesis process is not happening, the plant is doing the reverse. It's adding carbon dioxide to your environment. So it's a very tricky thing, like Daniel said, to look into. You need to work with it very specifically and in a scientific manner.
Okay, and in continuation to that, another question is there from Mr. Ramakrishna. He asks, how would ergonomics affect the IEQ? So environmental quality is being questioned on about here. So
I'm sorry,
ergonomics
did I
means,
hear ergonomics?
yeah,
All right. No, so ergonomics is pretty important because it deals with your size, proportions, the way your design happens based on circulation pattern. I mean, most often people associate ergonomics only to furniture, table, chair, but ergonomics is slightly beyond that. It's also how you're designing your spaces for movement. How you can have certain things within your reach when you're sitting. So when you don't do this, what happens is like the classic example of a table and chair. When you have a table at a certain height and a chair which is fixed, which is non-flexible, you're sitting on it on your work desk and you're working. And in the olden times, we used to have these monitors with a neck where the monitor height used to be slightly higher, and we would view it directly at our vision level, and we would sort of sit slightly more erect. But now with laptops, what tends to happen is the laptop doesn't have a neck, it's at a lower level, so you tend to slouch down, you tend to look down, and your posture is not very right. So when the entire system is not being made to a proper ergonomical design, the table, chair, no flexibility provided, it starts having these chronic non-communicable chronic problems of backache, strain on your spine, strain on your body. And ergonomics plays a very crucial influencing role on how your physical body, how much of strain your body feels. So when it's not been designed right, when it's not been done in the efficient manner, your body feels more taxed and you get stressed easily, and you think you've done more work than you actually have, or the attention span may not be right. So that's why flexibility is pretty important when it comes to ergonomics. I hope that answers the question.
okay. Thank you, Gaurav. Next, there's a question from Ms. Sriharika. So what she asks is how air filters could be installed in any residential buildings and how do they work? So I
See,
think it's, yeah.
yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Anil.
Yeah. So if I talk about buildings, there can be option if if you want to, if because the building is already there, so we need to see whether we can fit some systems like some HVAC system there, so that it can go to every rooms. But I don't feel so that can be feasible. So I would recommend that standalone units can be a better option, because it will be like the standalone unit only will be placed at one common location, and it will be like it will be controlled by the self. It will be controlled by the one owner only. So if the building is already in place, so I would recommend the standalone units can be used for the for the air purification. And if the building is not if it's not in the place, so at the initial stage, then we need to have a system in place where the fresh air can be distributed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anil. Next is a question from Mr. Krishna Narisetti. So it's for Gaurav. What he asks is, can CFU bacterial count quantify viruses?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Can CFU bacterial count quantify viruses as well?
CFU.
So you need to approach all of them in a different manner. Your bacteria, viruses, molds, which are a part of them. You need to first monitor and understand what exactly is present in your environment. And just by bringing in enough fresh air, you cannot dilute this out. You cannot, you need to kill it in certain ways. That's why you have all these things like germicidal lamps and all, which are installed to neutralize them. So yes, you may use in terms of weaker fruit viruses, etc. You may dilute the place with more air, but overall you need to concentrate on neutralizing them and not just diluting the airspace around them.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. Next is a question from LJT Designers. Does any good bacteria are also available in natural air when we inhale or exhale?
I think this depends on the area where you are living. Okay, because normally if you are living in urban areas where some industrial area is there, or some chemical chemical factories there, so that naturally spread. If the company is not taking care of the air which is exhausted to the environment, definitely it will have some of the hazardous components. And if the location is far away from some industrial area, so it's less chances that there may be some virus in the air. So it will depend on the locations where you stay.
Okay, so the next question is from Mr. Deepak Sahu. So what he asks is, for DCV, what are the CO2 levels to be maintained for modulating DCV system?
So like I showed in one of the slides, for CO2 levels, generally 530 ppm differential is what is acceptable as a bare minimum, compared the indoor air quality compared to the outside. So when you have this differential, this is what is used as a set point for demand control ventilation. Because most often demand control ventilation is triggered by the CO2 sensors, which are placed either at working level or in the HVAC return air ducts. So as soon as your CO2 levels increase beyond this, this is when the fresh air is going on added, or fresh air is going to be taken from outside. So 530 ppm is which is generally nationally accepted number.
Okay, so there's a question from Mr. Vijay Kumar. What he asks is, what is the electrical consumption to use the green air filters? Is it reasonable to low economic people? So I think this is for Mr. Anil.
Now, when you say green filters, so I would like to इसमें मतलब when you say there is a total cost of operation factor is there. So when you can measure it, which was explained by Gaurav, we need to, when establish any system, we need to monitor it. If you can monitor the previous condition of the before placing the filter, if it is measurable that this was the thing, this was the cost which was coming, and after placing a filter, this is the cost which I am able to get. That comparison you itself can can relate it, that after placing a filter, my cost has been low. But according to me, cost would not rise that much, because filter cost is high in a system. It's almost 5%.
Okay, so there's a question from LJT Designers. How to know whether air is filtered or not, and how to monitor it?
Come again? Can you repeat? What is the question?
So he's asking how to know whether air is filtered or not, and how to monitor it.
Okay. See, as it was mentioned by the presenters that we have some equipment which monitors the air quality. Okay, so you can place that air quality monitor into the place where you are keeping the system. So you can, because as for me, if I measure in my office, I have a system which shows the I switch off when I go. I have a air purifier in my office, which I start after 1 hour. I measure whatever the condition actually. So the system, the monitoring device shows that reading what is the EPM 2.5 level there. Then after that level, maybe that level is some 350. Then I start the system, within 10 minutes it comes to a single digit. So that's the simpler way. Just have a monitoring device you can place where you want to check it, and then the before after you can do.
So there's a question from Charit K. Bharadwaj. How can the filters be recycled after their usage or after they are disposed of efficiently?
See, as of now, there is no recycling of the filter. If you want to, scrap it, we do have a facility where we can support you in scrapping those filters, because you need to take care, because the filter has contained the dust, and it depends on what process you have set the filter. So as per the process, if it's a if it's a HVAC filters, it may have dust, it may have fumes, it may have oily particles. So that can have some allergy on the body if it's not taken out properly. So those need to be taken out after having all the PPs, and it can be wrapped in a poly bag, and it can be sent to Camfil. Okay, if you want to, and we will give you a form 10 from Government of India, which will state that this filter has been scrapped as per the as per the laws.
So the next question is from Ranjit. What he asks is, can we install air filters at home? If so, could you please recommend a type and standard filter? I think this question is in conjunction with that earlier question asked for residential spaces. So
Yes.
I think that answer would be applicable here. Yes, Mr. Anil?
Yes, definitely we have standalone units. Okay, there are different, if it's depend on the capacity of the room, how big is the room. So as per the uh, square feet of the area, we can have the selection of the filters. It's a standalone unit, and you can, it's a plug and play. You just need to open the filter, and you just start the filter.
Okay. So the next question is for Mr. Anil. From Mr. Jayaprakash, what he asks is it possible to provide automatic air quality monitoring system in factory premises along with graphical charts representation?
Yes, this is possible. We do have monitoring devices where we can install, and we can show a real-time monitoring, that how much is you know the EPM levels are moving. That can be placed. It can be placed before also, where you can have a look that what was the condition before putting the system, and after putting the system how it is monitoring. And that app also can also come onto your mobile also, so that when you are at home, you can also check what is the conditions when I am at home. How does my factory atmosphere is getting? So that is possible.
Okay. So the next question is from Mr. Avanish. What he asks is how occupants' productivity is being measured via enhanced IEQ. I think this is for Gaurav. Gaurav?
Like I mentioned, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So, like I was mentioning, see, when you come to health and well-being, IAQ, etc., is something that you can measure through instruments. But productivity is something very difficult to measure. It can be measured either through, you know, how the performance is happening, or it could be measured through your leaves taken, etc. But again, these are not very solid ways of measuring how productive a person is. Now, it's very difficult to quantify this and put numbers to it because of this reason, because it's something that happens in a different scenario. You cannot put figures and numbers to how productive someone is without measuring certain other things, like like leaves, like I mentioned. So for this particular thing, what we're trying to do right now as well is that we've tied up with Harvard School of Public Health, and there is a global study happening on cognitive function. And what basically happens in this is that for a period of 1 year, there were various buildings who were asked to have certain volunteers, at least 10 to 15 volunteers, and each volunteer was given a different device. Like, there was a IAQ measuring system, there was a, that Fitbit watch measures the sleep, the movement, activity, and there would be this app which would give them constant survey questions. Now all these questions were positioned in such a way that there would be analysis done on what the occupant is feeling, what is the temperature conditions, what is the air quality conditions, what is the fitness condition, and at the same time what are the answers getting coming through the survey. And through this we are trying to figure out a way, or trying to demonstrate how people were responding to different environments. And we couldn't directly say productivity, but if a person responded saying that I don't feel comfortable right now, I feel angered right now, or I feel disturbed right now, etc., that would be an indication that there would be something in the external environment that could be influencing this, and this would be measured through the sensors. So it's a slightly vague way of doing it, I agree, but this is the best that we have right now, because productivity cannot be directly measured through any instrument. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I just try to put out what we're trying to do for this.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. Next is a question from LJT Designers. Does prolonged use of AC damage our lungs and its ability to naturally inhale and exhale? So what will be the impact on the human body is the basic question.
See, again, I would say that using AC. So again, if the thing which you cannot measure, you cannot you cannot answer it. So if you have a measuring where you can you can have a system in place where you monitor that it is affecting my health. Okay, because the things which are the air which we breathe, it has an impact in long term. So I would rather say that they can have a system where they can place that how much particles are there in the room. Okay, in that case they can just measure it. That previously that there were some particles, and after putting some system, how much is the thing. So that can be the thing where they can measure that I'm living in a system, in a environment where the number of particles are in the green zone.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anil. The next question is from Mr. Avanish. So this is for Mr. Anil. Some companies suggest cleaning of HEPA filter using vacuum cleaner and reusing it. Is it safe and okay to use, or does this increase filters life at all?
First of all, I would suggest this is the I guess this is the first question I am hearing after joining Camfil, that HEPA filters can be cleaned. So I've heard about cleaning of pre-filters, fine filters, but we don't recommend that filters should be clean. Okay, so when you talk about HEPA filters, which captures captures a dust level of 0.1 to 0.2 micron, so it's not recommended that a HEPA filter should be clean. But I would say to enhance the life of HEPA filter, you should see the previous filters which are in line. Like the primary filters, which are pre-filters, fine filters, you can change them often, then changing the HEPA filter. This will also reduce your cost of the filter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anil. There's a question from Mr. Ramakrishna Silla. So what is economical way of maintaining the IAQ in a way of techniques in residential spaces?
Residential basis.
Yeah. So what is the economical way of maintaining the IAQ in residential spaces?
Okay. See, I would suggest that again it depends on the location where you are living. If you are living in a place where the count is very high, because when you talk about economical, I have one one real life example. I would like to share that. I was traveling to a place in the morning, and it was like at if you woke up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. you can feel the environment is very calm. So my wife was preparing something for me in the kitchen. So there was a huge noise coming. It was I was able to hear it, and when I approached the kitchen, I was able to see the exhaust fan was fully loaded. So maybe that fan was working maybe from months, but that cost was not. I was not able to see in my electricity bill. Okay, so the similar things can happen, because these are the basic things which we need to follow. So if you place a filter, it works on minimum wattage. Okay, and that too, you have a measuring devices that you can see if the required level of particles have reached, you can switch off the air purifier. So hope that would, I'm clear on it.
Okay. And this is the final question. So, do we have any portable air monitoring systems in the market to monitor microbial count parameter? This is a question from Mr. Ranjit Mangineni.
Bacteria.
So, Gaurav, you can also answer this question, or Mr. Anil can take it. Do we have any portable air monitoring systems in the market to monitor microbial count parameter?
See this, I think I need to check it because you are talking about bacterial infection which can be monitored. I
Gaurav,
think
would you like to add something? Yes, Mr. Anil, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would definitely like to answer because if I get, I do can have some information connected, and I can mail it later on to the person who is asking this question. But it's a very good question, which can be if this can be monitored.
Okay. Gaurav, would you like to add something to this?
I'm aware that certain systems, standalone units, are having provisions to kill this bacterial count, but I'm not very sure if they're monitoring it or showing numbers of what is present in the air. So, like Mr. Anil said, it would be interesting to do a bit more research ourselves on this and figure out if the systems are monitoring this as well, because they're definitely using certain technology to neutralize that.
Okay. So that ends our Q&A session. With this, we would like to end this session. I thank Mr. Anil Chopra, Gaurav, and Mr. Farooq Madan for presenting on all the aspects and giving us a holistic view of air quality and its impact on green built environment. So the recording of this presentation will be mailed to you, all the attendees and the registrants tomorrow in the morning sometime. So through the link, you will be able to review the session, and if you have any further queries, you may mail it to us, or you can also visit our website ciigreenpro.com and or IGBC.in for further information on this green built environment and various products available to enhance the performance of the green built environment. So thank you, Mr. Anil. Thank you, Gaurav. Uh, we would like to end this session now. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for joining and listening to us, and thank you, Mr. Anil, for that great presentation and all the information you shared.
I would also like to thank because it's the time where we need to get connected because we are sitting at home and it's very difficult for us so it's very good opportunity which has been provided so that we are well connected. We don't feel that we are sitting at home, and the same thing is with me that I'm daily I'm doing a video calls with my person so that they feel connected. They don't feel they're into isolations. That's a good thing of connectivity. Thank you so much.
So
Thank
you
you.
all,
Thanks a
and
lot, everyone.
the next webinar, and that will be announced in the next week, sometime on Monday or Tuesday. Thank you all. So with this,
And
we will
thank
be
you so
ending
much.
this.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Bye bye.
Bye.